Morning light spills across a half-packed living room, boxes stacked like barricades between two people who once shared everything. Lila stands motionless, a framed wedding photo trembling in her hand, her reflection fractured by glass. Ethan, immaculate in his tailored suit, checks his watch instead of her face. His voice, cold but rehearsed, tells her it's over, that he's found someone who reminds him what ambition feels like. The air thickens with disbelief, not rage. Lila's silence says everything words cannot. The hollow ache of being replaced before the love had even died. When he leaves, the door shuts softly, cruelly polite, like the world refusing to hear her heartbreak. Outside, his car glides away toward a different life, leaving her amid the ruins of promises still echoing through the quiet house. Days pass in muted tones. The house becomes a gallery of absences, empty hooks where pictures once hung, pale outlines of memories fading from walls. Lila moves through the silence like a ghost, learning to breathe again. She cleans, packs, sorts, motions of control in a life that no longer obeys her. The neighbors whisper about Ethan's glamorous new life with Vivienne Laurent, the name tasting like silver and poison. But Lila doesn't flinch. She paints over scuff marks, humming softly, creating rhythm from ruin. Every stroke on the wall is both goodbye and survival, each movement rewriting the space where love used to live. In the small-town cafe, whispers bloom like wildfire. The women at the counter sip coffee and murmur Ethan's name, their pity sugar-coated, their fascination sharpened. Lila sits alone in the corner, stirring tea she doesn't drink. The air hums with judgment, but she meets their glances with quiet defiance. Outside, posters of Vivienne's charity gala flutter against the wind. Her smile larger than life, her name gilded in cursive. The world may believe in their perfect reunion, but Lila knows truth rots beneath gold. As she leaves the cafe, her reflection in the window doubles. One woman walking away, another watching the past dissolve behind glass. Night falls quietly as Noah sleeps, his tiny breaths a metronome for Lila's restless thoughts. She sits beside his bed, tracing his cheek with gentle fingertips, vowing silently that he will never feel the abandonment she has known. The lullaby she hums is the same one she once sang when Ethan stayed late at the office. Then it was hope. Now it is armor. The world beyond their window hums with indifferent stars, but inside, the glow of a small nightlight casts warmth that no betrayal can touch. Lila's voice trembles into a promise that their story will not end in loss, but in the kind of strength that only love betrayed can forge. A headline breaks across social feeds. Vivienne Laurent, heiress of the Laurent estate, rekindles romance with businessman Ethan Carter. The image of them together flashes across Lila's phone, their smiles bright, calculated, rehearsed. She watches in silence, her reflection overlaying theirs on the glass screen, a haunting mirror of what could have been. But beneath the pain, something fierce stirs. The calm before a reclamation. She closes the phone, exhales, and walks toward the window. Outside, the wind bends the trees but cannot break them. Somewhere within that movement, she finds her rhythm again. Weeks slip by in quiet rhythm, and Lila begins to rebuild her world from fragments. The small art studio she once dreamed of becomes real. Paint-stained floors, second-hand canvases, sunlight bending through cracked windows. Here, among the smell of turpentine and hope, she finds herself again. The ghost of Ethan's betrayal lingers, but its voice fades beneath the hum of her brush. Her hands no longer shake. They create. She paints women standing in storms, unbroken. Each stroke is a vow that she will not be defined by what was taken from her. Outside, autumn wanes, and with it, the last trace of the life she left behind. Across the city, Vivian's mansion gleams under crystalline chandeliers, but the perfection feels brittle. Ethan sits beside her at a dinner table long enough for 10, speaking in practiced charm, yet her gaze drifts past him. Their reunion, once a triumph, now tastes hollow. The servants' polished footsteps echo like reminders of distance. Vivian forces laughter for photographers and friends, but behind her eyes flickers a fear she can't name, one that deepens every time Ethan avoids her touch. The life they built on wealth and pretense is beginning to crack, and neither dares to look at the fault line running through their smiles. Late at night, Lila sits at her kitchen table, a single envelope before her. She writes Ethan's name slowly, then stops. There is so much to say, yet nothing that would change what's already broken. Her words blur under tears she refuses to shed. She thinks of Noah, asleep down the hall, of the future that depends on her strength. The letter remains unfinished, a testament to restraint. She folds it, not to send, but to bury. The final message he will never read. Vivian wakes from dreams of her past, memories of laughter, and a sister long gone. The resemblance between Ethan and that ghost of memory gnaws at her. In the silence of her dressing room, she studies herself in the mirror, her reflection split between glamour and fatigue. Ethan enters, offering words about love and partnership, but they ring hollow. She sees through him now, the ambition, the vanity, the hunger. And in that moment, she begins to understand that his love is not for her, but for the world she represents. In the morning quiet, Noah's laughter echoes down the hall. He runs to Lila holding a crayon drawing 3 stick figures under a bright sun. "That's you, me, and Daddy," he says. Lila freezes, heart tightening, but smiles through the ache. She kneels beside him, pulling him close, whispering, "Well, always have our sunshine." Outside, the day begins in soft light. And Lila realizes that healing doesn't roar. It hums in small, beautiful moments like this. Winter presses against the window panes as Lila hums softly in the kitchen, her world anchored by routine. But Noah's laughter fades to coughs, deep and lingering. She rushes to him, her heart cracking at the sound. Hospitals have always made her uneasy. The antiseptic smell, the false calm. But she drives through sleet with trembling hands. Every mother's nightmare takes shape not in screams, but in silence. As the doctor's voice turns grave, her world contracts to a heartbeat. Noah's illness, he says, is rare, genetic, and demands more tests. Lila nods, though she can barely breathe. Somewhere beyond the sterile light, the past she thought buried begins to stir. In the cold hum of the hospital, everything feels sterile, suspended. Machines beep softly, steady as guilt. Dr. Marcus Vale explains the results gently, his tone both clinical and kind. The condition, though manageable, is rare, its genetic signature highly specific. Lila listens, every word a weight she can barely carry. He asks about family history, bloodlines, distant relatives. She answers as best she can, her voice cracking. When he mentions a potential match in another local family, her pulse stumbles. Somewhere, in the echo of his words, she hears the name Laurent. And time stops. Days later, the lab results arrive, sealed in an envelope that feels heavier than truth. Lila sits in her car, staring at the printed words that change everything. The genetic markers, rare, unmistakable, match not just to Ethan, but to someone else in the Laurent family. Her chest tightens as realization claws its way through disbelief. She remembers Vivian's perfect composure, Ethan's obsession, and a cold dread spreads through her veins. Secrets don't die. They wait. And now one is calling her to confront a past that refuses to stay buried. At home, Lila spreads old photographs across the table. Her wedding, the Lawrence charity galas, Ethan smiling beside Vivian's family. She notices it for the first time. the uncanny resemblance between Noah and Vivienne's late sister, Isabelle Laurent. A shiver runs through her. Could this be coincidence or cruel inheritance? The puzzle pieces begin to align. Ethan's secret visits to the Laurents before their reunion. Vivienne's strange hesitation. The whispers he dismissed. As snow falls beyond the window, Lila decides the truth has lived in shadows long enough. She will drive to the Laurent estate and demand answers, no matter what she finds. Night cloaks the highway in silver rain as Lila drives toward the Laurent estate. Noah, asleep in the back seat. The wipers beat in rhythm with her racing thoughts. Every mile feels like a step deeper into memory, into betrayal. She glances at Noah's reflection in the mirror, his small chest rising and falling, his face peaceful, and vows again that he will never be defined by their lies. The mansion lights appear on the horizon, faint and golden through the mist, like a mirage of power and pain. Whatever truth waits beyond those gates, she will face it, not as the woman he left behind, but as the mother who came for justice. The night hums with rain and destiny as Lila's car halts before the towering gates of the Laurent estate. The wrought iron lattice gleams beneath the headlights, elegant yet foreboding. She exhales, gripping the steering wheel, hearing Noah's soft breathing from the back seat, a sound grounding her resolve. Memories of Charity Gallus and tabloid photos flood her mind, yet tonight she is no guest. She presses the intercom, voice steady despite the storm. Tell Vivienne Laurent that Lila Carter is here. Silence stretches until the gate buzzes open, slow and reluctant, like the mansion itself dreading what's to come. The camera follows her headlights crawling up the rain-slick drive toward a truth too long unspoken. Lila steps from the car, each footfall echoing on marble steps slick with rain. The massive front doors open, revealing Vivienne framed in gold light. Stunning, immaculate, fragile. Time collapses between them. The woman who won and the one who lost, now standing face to face. Vivienne's smile falters as she spots the child sleeping in Lila's arms. Questions hover unsaid, hovering in the charged silence. Lila whispers, "We need to talk." Behind Vivienne, chandeliers glimmer, painting opulence over unease. In that instant, two women realize this night will unmake the lives both tried to perfect. The moment stretches until reality snaps. Vivienne's gaze drifts from Lila's face to Noah, his small hand, his eyes half open, and recognition strikes like lightning. Her complexion drains. Her lips part, but no sound escapes. The world tilts. Lila's voice, sharp with alarm, cuts through the hush as Vivienne collapses, her body falling gracefully, almost soundlessly, onto the marble floor. Lila kneels beside her, shaking her shoulder, her breath ragged. The servants rush in, their shock reflected in polished tiles. For a heartbeat, time stops, and in that stillness lies the promise of revelation, the weight of every lie Ethan ever told. Hours later, Vivienne wakes in her bedroom, pale and trembling. Lila sits nearby, Noah asleep in a chair by the fireplace. Between them lies a silence heavy with understanding. Vivienne's voice is fragile as crystal when she asks, "Who is he?" Lila meets her gaze, steady, unyielding, and answers, "Your blood knows." The truth vibrates in the air, too cruel, too precise to deny. Tears slip from Vivienne's eyes as she stares at the boy who mirrors her lost sister's smile. The storm outside fades, but inside, another begins. The storm of memory, of guilt, of a past Vivienne thought wealth could bury. The front doors crash open. Ethan strides in, rain-soaked and furious, the mask of control long gone. His eyes dart between Lila and Vivienne, confusion turning to dread. "What did you tell her?" he demands, but both women are silent. Noah stirs, blinking awake, whispering, "Daddy." The word slices through the room. Ethan falters, color draining from his face. Lila rises, voice calm and lethal. "She fainted because she saw what you've hidden all these years." The air grows still. Vivian looks at him, not as a lover, but as the man who destroyed 2 lives for pride. The mansion, vast and echoing, feels suddenly too small for all the truths it holds. The storm outside has passed, but the air in the Laurent mansion hums with dread. The clock ticks too loudly, each second marking the death of pretense. Ethan stands near the window, drenched and shaking, his reflection split across the glass. Lila sits beside Vivienne on the sofa, their silence heavier than accusation. Noah sleeps upstairs, unaware of the sins that built the roof over his head. Finally, Vivienne speaks, her voice distant, trembling. "He lied to both of us." The words pierce the room like thunder after calm. Ethan turns, but she does not look at him. Her eyes fix instead on the portrait above the fireplace. Her late sister, Isabel. Vivienne rises and walks toward the painting, her fingers trembling as they trace Isabel's face. "She was everything I wasn't," she whispers, voice cracking under the weight of memory. "And he loved her first." Lila's breath catches. Ethan's eyes widen in shock. The room trembles with unspoken history. Vivienne reveals how Isabel, her older sister, vanished after a scandal, pregnant and broken, while Ethan quietly disappeared around the same time. The realization seeps in like poison. Noah's blood carries not only Ethan's line, but Isabel's. Lila's heart fractures, not from betrayal, but from pity for the woman before her. Both victims of the same man's selfish hunger. Ethan stumbles forward, stammering excuses. Love, confusion, weakness, but the words crumble before they reach meaning. Vivian turns on him, eyes blazing with grief. "You destroyed her," she spits, "and then you came to me pretending it was fate." He drops to his knees, but guilt offers no redemption. Lila watches, her pain hardening into calm clarity. She no longer sees the man who left her. She sees a stranger desperate to control what's already lost. For a moment, no one moves. Only the fire crackles, a small, defiant sound in a room full of ghosts. Vivian's voice softens, trembling as she turns to Lila. "I found Isabel's letters after she died," she confesses. She loved him. He promised her everything, and when she told him she was pregnant, he disappeared. She vanished soon after. The truth lands heavy between them, the echo of lost lives filling every corner. Lila closes her eyes, realizing Noah carries the legacy of that hidden child, the one Ethan denied. The room feels holy in its grief, sacred in its ruin. Vivian weeps, her tears not just for her sister, but for every woman deceived by the same man's charm. And in that shared sorrow, a fragile understanding begins to bloom. Morning bleeds into the mansion, pale and indifferent. Lila stands at the balcony, gazing over mist-covered gardens, Noah safe in her arms. Behind her, Vivienne sits by the fire, wrapped in silence, while Ethan packs his things upstairs, his empire crumbling beyond the walls. There are no final words. Betrayal has already spoken enough. Lila turns to Vivienne, offering quiet empathy where rivalry once stood. "We both lost him," she says, "but we found something he never will. Truth." Vivienne nods, eyes weary yet alive. The camera lingers on their faces, 2 women reborn, not by revenge, but by release. The morning headlines scorch across every screen. Ethan Carter's fraudulent partnerships exposed. Cameras swarm the Laurent gates. Microphones chase rumors of betrayal, embezzlement, scandal. Inside, Ethan watches his empire unravel in silence. Each click of the television remote another nail in the coffin of his vanity. Lila stands in the doorway, not in triumph, but in quiet disbelief. at how swiftly pride dissolves. Vivienne enters behind her, dressed in mourning black, though no one has died. At least, no one the world can see. The truth always finds its way, she murmurs. Ethan doesn't respond. The man who once worshipped wealth now stares into the abyss of everything it cost him. By afternoon, the world knows his sins. News anchors dissect his career. Analysts sneer at the fall of a visionary. Ethan's phone buzzes relentlessly. Lawyers, investors, ghosts of greed demanding answers. He ignores them all, staring at a single framed photograph. Him and Noah, smiling in another life. Outside, reporters chant his name like vultures circling decay. For the first time, Ethan feels the full weight of his choices, how every lie, every selfish act, built a tower destined to collapse. Through the noise, Lila's voice pierces softly. You did this to yourself. He nods, finally, and for once does not argue. That evening, Lila returns to the mansion for one last time. Noah plays quietly in the garden with Vivienne, their laughter faint through the glass. Ethan stands alone in the study, suitcase at his side, a man unmade. He turns as she enters, hope flickering like a dying ember. You came to see me, he asks. Lila nods once, to say goodbye. The words land like final judgment, but before leaving she hesitates, her voice softening. For Noah's sake, I hope you find peace, not excuses. It is not forgiveness, but something rarer, mercy born from pain. The garden glows with twilight as Ethan steps outside. Rain finally ceased. Vivienne waits among the roses, arms folded, expression unreadable. You destroyed everything we built, she says softly. No, Ethan replies. I destroyed what I pretended to be. For a fleeting moment, the two share a look stripped of lies. Two people who mistook desire for destiny. She steps closer, eyes glistening, and whispers, Then let this be your penance. Live with the truth. She walks away, her silhouette dissolving into dusk. Ethan watches her go, alone among the roses that once symbolized victory, now stained with memory. Night returns quietly. Lila tucks Noah into bed at their small cottage, far from the mansion's shadow. He asks, Will Daddy come home? She strokes his hair, whispering, He has to find his own home first. Outside, wind stirs the trees, carrying away what's left of bitterness. Lila steps onto the porch, breathing in the scent of rain and new beginnings. She doesn't smile, not yet. But peace has a way of arriving softly, without ceremony. Somewhere beyond the hills, Ethan drives into the unknown, headlights carving through darkness, chasing a redemption he may never find. The first light of dawn spills through thin curtains, washing the cottage in soft gold. For the first time in months, Lila wakes before Noah, not from worry, but from calm. The world outside hums with birdsong and renewal. She moves through the kitchen quietly, brewing coffee, her hands steady, her breath unburdened. On the counter, a stack of letters lies unopened. Final documents from Ethan's divorce settlement, the sale of the Laurent estate, the closure of an empire built on deceit. She doesn't touch them. Instead, she opens the window, letting the morning air rush in, filling the room with the scent of wet earth and promise. Today, she belongs entirely to herself. Noah bursts into the room wearing mismatched socks and a grin that erases every shadow. Mommy, come see, he calls, dragging her outside to the garden. Dew sparkles on the grass as he runs barefoot through the morning light. Lila watches him, heart swelling with gratitude and ache. He is the best of both worlds. Innocence born from chaos. Love that outlived its ruin. When he tumbles into her arms laughing, she realizes that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to live with what remains, and finding joy there anyway. Later, when Noah naps, Lila retrieves an old box from the cupboard. Inside rests the letter she once wrote to Ethan but never sent. The paper has yellowed slightly, The ink faded, but her pain, once raw and raging, now feels distant, almost kind. She reads the first line aloud. I loved you once enough to forgive anything. Then smiles and folds it shut. She doesn't burn it, nor does she mail it. Instead, she places it back inside the box, no longer as a wound, but as proof of how far she's come. Some truths deserve to rest in peace. Vivian arrives unannounced, dressed simply without jewels or entourage. Her presence carries no grandeur now, only humanity. Lila greets her with quiet surprise, and for a moment, they stand unsure of how to begin. Finally, Vivian speaks. I'm selling what's left of the estate. I thought you might want Noah to have this. She hands over a locket. Isabel's. Inside, a tiny photo of a woman smiling beside a baby never born to live in sunlight. Tears fill Lila's eyes as she clasps it. Not as a token of tragedy, but of lineage finally made whole. Two women who once stood on opposite sides of betrayal now share the same peace, earned through pain and courage. At sunset, Lila and Noah walk along the hill overlooking their cottage. The sky burns with soft coral and gold, the wind gentle, carrying laughter and the scent of rain-washed grass. Lila looks out at the horizon, the same world that once seemed cruel and unkind. And finally, it feels hers again. Noah tugs her hand, asking if the sun is going to sleep. Ice, she says, smiling, but it always wakes up. As they watch the last light fade, the story closes not with revenge or ruin, but with quiet grace. The triumph of a woman who turned heartbreak into strength, and a child who became her reason to rise.